Welcome, InvestorFuse community and other investors. We got started a little bit late here. Colby and I had some technical issues, but we're ready to rock and roll. And thank you for coming on. I see some familiar face already. Andrew, Lauren, thank you for coming on. This is Colby Amerine. He is president, TDP Capital. I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit. If you guys got my email this morning, he has a great personal story of how he was in some service type businesses and then got into real estate investing and has had a lot of success with that. And I also said in the email, if you had some free time today, of course, we're going to have this as a replay, but if your acquisitions team had some downtime between appointments today, definitely get on this live call because we'll be on here 30 minutes to an hour and they will have some guaranteed takeaways from Colby. So Colby, thank you so much for coming on and would love to hear a little bit more about your personal background, how you got into real estate.
Absolutely. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And thanks for that good introduction there. And yeah, get your acquisition people on here. We are going to talk about some sales, and I love sales. I don't sell to live. I live to sell. So I think it's a blast. And I want to show you guys how to enhance your business by doing that. But let's back up a little bit. First, let me introduce myself and where I came from. So I was a firefighter and paramedic for 10 years. I'm in the Houston area, so north of Houston in the Woodlands. I was a firefighter for 10 years. And before that, I was with an entrepreneur family. My father's always had some sort of business that I'd always participate in, that just father-son working relationship. But just got tired of kind of living that life and wanted to give a service life. So I got into the fire department and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it's truly living the dream. Not a lot of people can say they get up and go to work and are living the dream, but I did. And it didn't make a lot of money, but that's not why I did it. I totally did it for service. Kind of being the Superman, kicking in doors and saving lives and putting out fires. And it was just a lot of fun. But 10 years into that, so imagine you're doing a career where you have 20 years and you're going to retire. And that's where I was. And 10 years into that career, halfway to the stretch, I mean, I had my fishing spot picked out, my boat picked out. I was ready to retire in 10 more years. And I got injured and I was not able to go back to work. So after about a year and a half of rehabilitation, trying to get better, this was one of many injuries I had, but this one really crushed me. And, I wasn't able to go back after a year and a half, and it was basically just over. And it was on the job injury. So there wasn't like, disability or anything like that. A lot of firefighters get taken care of, with disabilities. So they got a few years, they can further their education and get another career. But I didn't. I just one day was like, no more, can't go back. So I had a good skill set. I knew how to pump a fire truck, start an IV, restart a heart, and all that good stuff. But it couldn't translate into a good career in anything. So I sat in a lot of rooms. Friend buddies of mine said real estate's good, get into real estate. So I went on the Quest cruise and I went on the real estate rooms and I saw the stage guys talking and selling the dream of, you can do this, no money, no credit and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, this is cool because I didn't have any money and I didn't have any credit. I was living the blue collar work life, just typical American husband, wife, 2 kids, 2 cars, two-story house, wife and I making about $9,000 a month, living on 10 and a half. That's typically where I was at. And so I went to the rooms of real estate educators. I got into a guy's program and started following the process. I didn't have any money, so I started door knocking. And I pulled the foreclosure list. I started door knocking. I started just beating the street, man, shoe leather, right? And I finally got a house. I got a house in Baytown, and it was my very first flip. I flipped it. I didn't understand wholesaling. I didn't understand all the terminology yet. As a matter of fact, it took about, and it'll probably take anybody who gets this business, about 18 months for me to really understand the business. And the effect of what's the terminology, what do the words mean, what's the process, and all that kind of stuff. It took me about 18 months of hard study to really understand that. But I hit the ground day one running. I mean, I signed up my first deal on a piece of copy print paper. I mean, I didn't even know what a contract was. I just, you want to sell it, I want to buy it. And in Texas, that's legit. It's a contract. So we ended up putting it on our state contract. But in any case, what I mean is get the ground, hit it running. So I got my first flip in Baytown. Signed it up, and we flipped it over the course of 4 months. I got my real estate license because I thought you needed to be licensed to do everything, because I came from the fire service where you have to be licensed to do everything. So I have a real estate license. So I listed the property. We project managed the property. We purchased the property. We did all the systems and processes. And in the beginning, I mean, it's what you do, right? You do all the little hats. You wear all the hats, and it was a lot of work. I mean, I listed it, had a lot of showings. People came, and the long and the short of it is, after 4 months, we sold it. We closed on it, and I made $25,000, like 24/7, right? But it's $25,000 I made. And I remember holding that check and going to the bank and realizing, wow, and I just made 6 months worth of income, right? And it took 4 months, but I didn't work 24-hour shifts to get it, right? And I thought that was like belief check to me. It's like, okay, this really works. Because all along the while I'm knocking on the doors and people telling me you can do it, I'm like, I don't know if this really works. Sounds good in theory. But once I got that one done, and for you out there listening, once you get that, first deal done, man, you can put the gas pedal on it, because then you've seen all the processes. You see how it goes from beginning to end. And so we started doing that. I had a partner at the time, and he and I started flipping, and we grew. We had growing pains. At first, we were both wearing all the hats in the business, but we would hit bottlenecks and try to figure out what to do. And finally, we read a good book, Traction, and we were like, okay, division of labor, right? We need to divide this thing up. And or what was the Rocky Fuel? That was the one we read. Yeah, and I was the visionary. He was the integrator. So we just split our job roles and got real clear on, hey, you're responsible for the project management and the sale of the property, and I'm in charge of the marketing and the raising the private money for the property. And man, we started accelerating just because we divided and conquered. And then we'd meet once a week to make sure that everything was going well. So over time, we started flipping and doing that. And I really didn't focus in on wholesaling as much as just the flipping. That's what we went to. And along the way, we had bought a few rental properties. We had 7 rental properties. And so we were kind of doing a little bit of everything. And that sounds pretty and sounds great, but actually that's the problem. When you do a little bit of everything, it's hard to really accelerate and get results that you read about, hear about, and really want. So our vision kind of split. My partner and I, he really wanted to do the rentals, and I wanted to do the wholesaling. So we ended up splitting that company up, and I took the flipping and the operations side of it, and he took the hold side of the other business. And we went, I don't want to say we started over, but just kind of reset and regrouped. And then I really started focusing on, how do I do this just me, right? And so we spent the next 2 years building that part out. And all along the way, as I'm doing interviews and buying houses from people, I started working with a couple of these local educators, and I started working the back of the room, if you will, in the sales for selling real estate education. And I know if you're listening out there, you've probably done it all. I've been to every room there just about is. I'm sure there's a few I haven't, but all the big brands I've been in, I've worked behind the scenes with a lot of them. But worked with a guy here, built out Texas market and about 6 other markets, and was doing really, really well. And I was telling you this as I split with him and we kept building the properties. I went behind in the sales floor on education business, started building that out. And since then, I've actually built out 3 other ones with other kind of local educators. Because what I found is, I got into flipping properties because I needed something to do. But when I was a firefighter, my heart was about helping other people. And then when I started flipping properties, I was helping people in foreclosure. I helped more people flipping properties than I ever did as a fireman in 10 years as a fireman. I helped more people in just 2 years of being a house flipper. But when I got into the real estate education and started selling people, closing people into that, I started helping even more people than flipping houses. So if you look at exponentially, if I can help some new person get out here, learn how to do this business, right, and then they go affect 100 to 200 homeowners' lives, it's just exponential growth. If I help 10 people do that, I help 2,000. If I help so I found get right to the source. So I started getting a lot of enjoyment out of getting people educated and into real estate education so they can get in this business and do very well. And that was a lot of fun. And that gets me to where my credibility of my sales is I've sold over $14 million in products, goods, and services and homes, and in the course of 5 years. And so I've seen a lot of people. I've heard every objection you can hear. It's pretty much, there's like 4 types of people, and you get 7 objections from each one. And once you've heard it enough, you've seen it all. It's the same objections you get when you're in the living room from somebody buying a house. So overall, this course of time, and I've just been a student. Like I said, I live to sell. I don't sell to live. So I studied the Grant Cardones, the Tony Robbins, the Dave Sandler, all these guys. I've read their books. I listen to Audible. I studied every day. I still do. I listen to hours and hours a day. I'm a student of it. I love it. However, as Dave Sandler would say, you can't learn to ride a bike at a seminar. You can read all the books you want and listen to all the audios, but unless you're at running sales calls and running appointments every day, that's where you get good. That's where you get really good. So I started, I still run, I probably average 4 sales appointments a day between products and services and buying houses. I probably run, I've got four this week for the properties and another 16 for services. So saying that is I'm in the process of doing appointments all day long. So I understand the sales process, and I got it really, really refined down to 7 simple steps. So, excuse me. So I just want to build upon that. I know I sidetracked a little bit just because that was going on kind of in left field or behind the scenes while I'm building the house buying business. So, we can back up a little bit back into the house buying business. I was growing that out. And what I learned was that wholesaling and flipping is great, good money. I've had 6-figure months, flipping houses. That's wonderful. However, it's still very active income. It's very much, it's hard. It's hard work. It's a lot of work to make that kind of money. And I really got into real estate, or when I first started learning about real estate, was I wanted the passive income. I feel like, and I've talked to hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people, and that's what they always, they say they want the same thing, right? Financial freedom, passive income. There's no financial freedom in flipping houses. It's owning property. You got to own rentals. Now, however, I get it. You got to make money. You got to make income right now. So you do need to flip properties, and wholesaling actually is one of the, least risk, most amount of money that you can make. And that's one of the best things you can do. However, I have to say, caveat emptor, buyer beware, wholesaling is the hardest thing to do. It is absolutely, you have to have the best marketing and you have to have the best sales skills, because you're signing them up at 50 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar. So you can sell it to a flipper at 70 cents or a landlord at 80 cents on the dollar. So it's one of the hardest things you can do. There's people that are naturally good at it. And then I've seen people get really good at it with just working on developing the sales skills. And like I said, I've refined out that 7-step process. And that's what I adopted. I used to spend hours and hours in appointments, and now I've got it down to about 40 minutes. And it's either a closed deal or not. And the good thing about it is everybody knows when you leave. Everybody knows what's happening when you leave. If I didn't sign it up with you, that's fine. We know the next steps. Because I found after thousands of appointments that the most frustrating thing for you, the owner, the salesperson, whatever you want to call yourself, is that indecisiveness and that wishy-washiness and not knowing what's happening next. It burdens you. You leave a property, and then you get in the car and you go away and you say, John the seller, you're like, what's he going to do? What's going to happen next? We kind of left that open-ended. So one of the biggest things I learned to do is just never leave anything open-ended. And you just have to learn to get real direct with questions. We can talk about that a little more here in a little bit, though.
Yeah, man, that was a ton to
Yeah.
unpack there. I appreciate you going.
Yeah.
I think the most tactful thing, that's a hell of a story too. I didn't even realize that you were so big into the educational selling stuff like that. But I'm the same exact way, man. I try to have my head in a book as a morning and night routine every day, audio book, just to try to learn and develop and harness that skill. And I forget, speaking of books, I forget which one it is. I have a stack right here next to me. I think it may be Go Giver or one of those, where it pretty much talks about how you're compensated by the value that you provide times how many people you can actually provide that to. So that's an interesting personal analyzation that you did, where in 10 years working as a firefighter, you were able to help that same amount of people in 2 years real estate investing.
Right. And then to be able to help more people by putting them in at the top of the funnel, if you will, where they go help people. So I had a mentor of mine told me a long time ago, influence the influencer.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, who's in this market of buying houses? Who's the influencer? And it's the flipper, right? Or the investor, right? The investor is the influencer in their market. And so if I can make the influencer better, I mean, if I can influence the influencer, if I can make the investor better, he or she's going to touch more lives than I ever could in my own market. And it's funny you say the Go Giver. Like I also track it like this. I realized you have to have a purpose, a vision, and a plan. And it took me a long time, a lot of mindset books to figure that out. But it's like when you wake up every day and you understand your purpose, when you have a vision and then a plan to get there, every day is just check. You just get up and you just knock it out, and you have a scorecard, right? Which is a purpose to get things going. So I know my purpose is to help other people. I mean, people go, okay, well, yeah, that's pretty vague. And yeah, that's right. But that's my purpose. I get up every day to help other people. So then my vision puts numbers on it. So then I know I can track. So, my vision is to help 500,000 people. Now, well, why not 1 million? Why not 1 billion? Because I want to do something I know I can achieve in my lifetime, right? Or maybe I do it in 5 years, maybe I do it in 10. And when I hit that goal, then I can set something higher. But my vision is 500,000 people. It's something I can track, right? And so my purpose, help other people, vision 500,000. My plan is to do it through education, right? Sales education and real estate education. I've narrowed my niche way down to just sales education, but it's in this real estate space. However, I've helped people with whatever they sell. I mean, life insurance doesn't matter because it's just a sales process, right? Mm-hmm. That's really what I identified. And I learned it tremendously through buying houses. And then, like I said, through the education space, working, I got more interviews that way. And like I said, that's how you get good, is doing interviews. So, I've narrowed people down to like 4 types of people, and we're not that unique. And that's what's funny. It's just like there's 4 types of people. And so Laurel, let's see, Colby, can you learn more?
Yeah, Laurel is, we're going to segue right into that. Laurel's asking, she wants to see these 7 steps, hear about these 7 steps. And it's 7 steps per 4 personalities, so 28 totals. No.
I don't want you to get confused. There's 4 personality types. Let's just talk in general. And no, the 7 steps are the same for every person.
Cool.
Yeah. It's just once you sit down and kind of start building rapport with somebody, and the language patterns they use and what they say, I'm like, I know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I know what I know if I say this, you're going to say that. It's just weird. And that only comes from just thousands of appointments. It's nothing you learn when you're brand new. It definitely is something that you learn after going over and over and over. So Laurel, to answer your questions, yes, 7 steps that I go through with a seller. So basically, my speaker messed up. Okay. So basically 7 steps. So the very first thing that you want to do, and it's the most critical thing, is to build rapport. So step number 1 is build rapport. It absolutely, people buy from people they like, people who, or they think they are like them, or that they trust. Period. End of story. If you don't like them and don't trust them, they're not going to buy from you. So your number 1 job is to build rapport. The second thing I do after I build rapport, and I teach techniques on how to do that in less than 5 minutes, in 30 seconds, because I used to door knock. So it was real important to build rapport very fast before the door gets slammed in your face, right? And most of the time it's done through matching and mirroring, which is stuff you can learn under NLP, Neuro Linguistics Programming. So I became a big student of that after I went and saw Tony Robbins, and he changed my life.
Big advocate of that. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan.
Tony Robbins is amazing. I went to Unleash the Power Within You twice. Took my team the second time. Took 8 people with me the second time. And I plan on, it was either take myself to Fiji to do the Date with Destiny, which I really wanted to do, or bring 8 people with me to UPW. Financially, that was the cost. And then once again, I'm all about helping others. I'm like, you know what? If I can bring 8 people with me to this, that'll have a bigger impact than me going to the Date with Destiny. So I brought those 8 people, and sure enough, it absolutely changed their life. They'll never forget it. So I love Tony Robbins. I think he's absolutely amazing. And you need to go to UPW while he's still alive and still kicking, because of course he's not going to do it forever. So go experience him while you can. He's absolutely amazing. And I don't have an affiliate link for that, but but to go do it, it's worth it.
You do have these 7 steps though, and
I do.
I'll put them in the show notes of where you may have some material available. But if you guys are just joining us, we're with Colby Amerine. He's Houston, Texas, sales negotiation. Last week we were talking the book Traction, Rocket Fuel. Sean Tagg was on. He's very much an integrator. Colby, very much an visionary.
Yep.
Visionary personality type. So he's going through, if your acquisitions team has some downtime, check this out live or come back on. But let's go through the 7 steps. We were talking number 1, build rapport.
Let's do it. Yeah, number 1, build rapport. If you want to put in the show notes 7-step sales process, I know it's .com. I know it's long. The number 7-step sales with an S process.com. And basically what it is there, Laurel and everybody else that's listening is I do a PowerPoint webinar I've done before. So basically I just did that into a PDF, so you can kind of just read through the PDF. And then a little later on, I'll send you a little webinar kind of walking through it, real estate specific. But let's talk about it. Number 1, build rapport. You got to build rapport. You got to have it. If you don't have it, none of this works. People aren't going to buy. We teach doing that through NLP tactics such as matching and mirroring. Making sure you do that. A lot of people think, oh, if I get in, I'm a big talker. So I was like, oh, I used to just talk my way through sales, just wear people out. And what I found is that through communication, that words are only 7% of your communication. They're hardly any of it. Words really don't matter as much as your tone. 38% of your language is, or communication is tone. And then 56 is, 56 is, physiology, your body language. So your body language is the most important thing you can do. Tone is the next. I mean, you've seen, you remember your mom or your dad could just shout your name in a certain tone, and a whole paragraph came with that. I mean, you knew exactly what they meant, right? Oh, yeah. You say Carlos, they just say it one way, and you're like, oh crap, like you know everything, and it's tone, right? And so tonality is really big. And so when you match and mirror people with that, they subconsciously think, wow, this person is like me, I like them. It's really cool. So matching and mirroring and through building rapport, it's not a lot of yakking and talking. It's more about letting them talk more than you. If people feel good when they talk about themselves, they want to talk about themselves. It's easier on you to let them talk about themselves, and you get data. You get to figure out their story and what's going on. And in the NLP world, Tony Robbins world, once you understand how they see the world, you can put yourself in their shoes. You can have empathy and communicate with them a lot better whenever you put yourself in their shoes and figure out what's going on. But the only way you find that out is let them talk, right? So a lot of little stuff in there about building rapport, matching, mirroring, finding out the data about them, about their, what their situation is. Now, once you've done that, I like to set the agenda. Step number 2 is setting up the agenda, meaning what are the rules on this phone call? What are the rules on this house appointment? Now, let me back up just a second, because it's real important to know what is your sales process, because some people have they buy everything on the phone. Some people do everything knee to knee. And so this works, but you got to figure out what is your process. Are you closing people on the phone? I don't. I used to, right? I used to probe for pain and figure it all out and close them on the phone. Now I do everything by appointment, but I have just a 2-step qualification process. Do you want to sell quick, and do you have equity? That's if they have those two, meet those for me. If they meet those 2 qualifications, I'll go on the appointment, because I know knee to knee sales is a contact sport, and I know if I get knee to knee with you, we're together in a room. I'm at the house. I want to buy the house. If it's viable, the deal is doable, I'm going to get it. If not, at least we know where we're going from there. I have a friend that does almost all his stuff over the phone. So it just really depends on your process. So you got to figure out your process, and then you build the sales system around it, right? And then you don't sway from it so that you can track it. Because if you can't track it and measure it, you can't change it. So you have to track and measure. It's one of the biggest things I love about InvestorFuse, right? Using that system. I'll get into that in a little bit, but the one thing I love about it is you can track everything. If you can track it and measure it, you can change it, right? If you don't, I do some coaching. Like I'm not a coach for a hire as far as like real estate, but like I used to do that, and people would be like, "Well, I have this problem, that problem," and I'd say, "Well, how many calls did you make? How many appointments you going?" "Well, I don't know." "Well, I can't fix you. Can't help you change anything unless you track it." So tracking is real important. Understanding your process is important before you implement these steps. So step number 2, set the agenda, set the rules. Rules of the appointment. So Carlos, you and I are going to sit here. We're going to sit here for an hour, right? We're going to go over some numbers and look at some things. And if it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense for you, you okay with telling me no, it doesn't make sense? Cool. And likewise, if it's not a good fit for me, you okay with me telling you it's not a good fit? Okay, the flip side of that, if it is a good deal and it makes sense, you cool moving forward? Great. So just setting a rule, like it's just setting it, and that's just one example of many ways you can do it. Just setting an agenda for why we're meeting, right, and what's going to happen when we're going to meet, because people don't know what's going to happen. So just tell them what's going to happen, right? And they're comfortable when they know that. If you're selling products or services, it's the same thing. If you're selling water filters, life insurance, whatever, right? It's all the same thing. People, I wonder when he's going to do, what's the catch? When's he going to, they're not listening to you while you're doing the dog and pony show, right? They don't hear anything. So like, we don't just come in and present, we come in and figure things out first in this order. So step number 1, bonding rapport. Step number 2, set the agenda. Why are we here? What's the outcome of this meeting? Okay. The little micro agendas you could set up all along the way. And we'll talk about how all that makes sense, but set the rules for the game. Step 2. Step 3 is after you've figured out the rules of the game, you probe for pain. The pain is pain, right? You just got to figure out, is the person, you got to figure out how, what's going on in their situation and listen for the pain, listen for their needs. And I like to take the word needs because that's what people understand needs, but cross that out and put problems. So listen for their problems. It's going to be wants, needs, problems that people are going to talk about. And what does that mean? If I ask you a question, Carlos, the first answer you're going to tell me is pretty much what you want. If I ask you a little deeper, next time I ask you the same question or phrase differently, it might you're tell me what you kind of need, and then I'm going to ask you a third, fourth, or fifth time. Usually 3 times I'll get in there and you'll tell me the problem.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, yeah. It's people give you kind of smokescreen kind of bull crap, and they give you that because it's a natural defense. Because we're all scared of salespeople. It's human nature. We were raised that way. I mean, you walk into a store, Carlos, and somebody says, "Hey, welcome to XYZ store. How can I help you?" And you go, "No, thanks. Just looking." I mean, it's like a programmed response, right? Mm-hmm. And people think salespeople are slimy and grimy and carpetbaggers and all that kind of stuff. That's just the natural. So they think it's okay to lie to them. Little white lies. They think it's okay. It's a sales guy. I can just little white lie. And it's not okay, but it's just a natural defense. So you just have to, excuse me, you have to keep asking questions to get past that smoke screen, right? That little words that they're just like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. Really, big deal. What does that mean? Or not a big deal. What does that mean? Right? You just gotta, what does that mean? Right? And go a little deeper, a little further in. And then finally they'll go from their needs, their wants, their needs to their problem. When you find the problem, we're in the business of solving problems. And you don't run out and say, oh, I can solve that, buy today and I'll solve that. Here's 21 ways I can fix it. I don't even go straight into that. I just check box in my head. Okay, we've figured that one out. Like I stack these problems up because when I come back later to present my offer, I present my offer to fix the problems. It's not about the money. It's about fixing the problems. So after you set the agenda and you start probing for pain, it's by asking questions. And you'll see when you download that slide deck, I got a bunch of just example questions in there, but it's really just the why, what, and how. It's really probing for the pain. So you probe with questions. I teach some techniques in there on how to not just be a militant like question asker. You've got to soften them up. You got to really kind of communicate and be like, answering a question with a question. You don't just answer straight back. My wife hates it when she asks me a question and I answer directly back with a question. So you soften it with, you go, well, that's interesting. Why would you say that? Right. Or that's a wonderful answer or wonderful question. Why would you ask that? Like, you have to soften it with like a little phrase in the middle. So you don't just sound like you're just flipping them, right, reversing them every time. Right.
Right.
So after you've probed for pain, it's real important. The next step is to figure out the budget. Okay. And what does that mean? Well, in the sales, if you're selling products and services where it's finding out if you're selling cars, hey, what's your budget? $35,000. Well, we're not going to go look at the $70,000 cars, right? There's no point. So in sales, it's real important to figure out the budget. Now, it's a little different in house buying. When you're buying houses, it's, you're the buyer, so you're the customer. So it's kind of a paradigm shift because you're the customer. However, you're selling them. Now you're not, but see, that's the thing. I'm not selling them on. My money's not greener and my company's not bigger and badder, right? Carlos's money just as green as mine, right? Your money's just as green as mine. So I'm not selling them on my company. I got to find the problems to fix the problem. I'm the buyer, right? Typically the buyer is the customer. So it's a little paradigm shift. So back to the budget. Whenever I talk to homeowners, I use this process and use this step in the home buying process. I talk to them about their budget, meaning, have you looked at their repairs? What do you think it's going to cost to fix this kitchen? What about these floors? What about this big hole in the wall? What about this ripped out copper? What about this roof shingles coming off? Have you priced that? Really? With three roofers? Like, because most of the time they haven't. But basically, all I'm building here is actually building more pain. I'm figuring out that they don't have enough, or they need to learn, they need to speak it, that they don't have enough money to fix this house, or they just don't want to fix the house. And I do that by asking questions about. So the budget step, I start asking questions about the repairs typically, because like I said, I'm the buyer, not the seller in this situation. So there's the budget step. After the budget step, you want to figure out the decision-making step. What's your decision-making process? So people make decisions very differently. And this is where most people get a lot of objections about. This is where a lot of people get hung up. You go to a meeting. I remember one of the first meetings I went to, first home seller meeting I went to. I was so inexperienced, and I sat down and wasted 3 hours and signed a contract with the freaking tenant, because the tenant was who I was talking to the whole time, and I thought I was talking to the homeowner. So it's real important to figure out the decision maker. This is like my first 6 months in the business. So I know people out there have done it. You sat with the wrong person, or you sat with a husband and you realize the wife's not there, or that they're married and you don't find out till later, or you're sitting with a brother or a sister and not the real person that's on the deed that makes the decision to buy the house. So not only do I find out if I'm with the decision maker by asking, I also ask questions about the decision-making process. Some people it's the who, what, when, where. Who makes the decision? When is it made? Where is it made? How is it made? Some people make decisions at the dining room at the dinner table. Some people make decisions on the couch. Some people make decisions out by the garden. Seriously, they'll say, all our decisions are made right there at the dinner table. So as I'm touring the house and I get ready to make my offer, where do you think I go? I take them to the kitchen table, right? I find out what their process is. You'll get process where people say, well, we sleep on everything, right? We sleep on 24. And I used to be real militant, stick with them and kind of make them make a decision today. But what I've learned as my skill set's gotten even better is I actually will fold right into their sales process and anchor them down to that. So if I'm in the decision-making process and I found I'm with the decision maker, but they say, I always sleep on every decision. And I'll pick at them a little bit. I'm like, even if it was $1 million, you'd have to sleep. You wouldn't sign right away if I wasn't going to do it and walk out. Sometimes if you've getting good rapport, that'll work, and you'll get them to make the decision today. But if they're really hard-nosed about it, then I'll just say, great, Carlos, what time do you go to bed usually? And you'll say 10 o'clock. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. What time you usually get up? About 6. Okay. 6 o'clock. That's good. All right. So when you go to bed tonight at 10 and you get up tomorrow at 6, if I call you at 7:30, you'll have done your process and ready to make a decision. Give me a yes or give me a no. And they've made their own trap, right? They've set their own self up because all you told me you had to do was sleep on it. Okay, so you go to bed at 10, you get up at 6. So 7 o'clock, you're done. We can say yes or no. We can say yes or no now, or we can do it at 7 o'clock. And then if depending on the rapport and how kind of fun we're having, I might even say, now, Carlos, what's really going to change between 9:59 and 7:01 or 6:01? What's really going to change about these numbers right here? So if this makes sense to you now, I mean, we can just do this and be done with it and move to the next step, right? Or I get it, 7:30, that's cool. You tell me yes, I'll email it, or we can do it all digitally. It's really just them they just don't want to make a decision right now. Right. So usually I'll pick on them a little bit and we'll get them to make a decision. But if I can't and they're hard pressed, I'll nail them down with that. Fine, 7 o'clock, yes or no. Like it's just what I do. So decision, where we at? Decision making process, budget, decision. Now we've got to do. Now after we've done all this process, then we'll finally present the offer. So a lot of people come in and present an offer right away, and that is not what I do. I think that if you present the offer at the very end and you don't make it about the numbers, you make it about the pain, then that'll be the best. That has the best results. So we've got first of all, we had rapport. We had the agenda, pain, decision making. Then we're going to do pain, budget, decision making. Then we're going to do present the offer. And when you present the offer, you present it to all the problems that you've been making note of. So what's an example of that? I had a deal I did with a lady named Mary. When I went over to the property, she was packing up boxes, trying to get into an apartment down the road. Her father died in Ohio, and family needed to be up there, and she was just facing foreclosure. And so literally, after all these steps were done, when I presented the offer was like this. Now, granted, she had a contract there that some rookie salesperson had left filled out for $80,000 sitting on the table, right? Wanting her to sign it and send it back. As I presented my offer to her, this was my offer. Mary, put the boxes down. How about this? You take a first-class ticket to be with your family up north where you need to be, because that's the most important thing right now. When you come back, I'll have all this stuff categorized, wrapped, shipped, boxed, and moved, and I'll take care of the deposits and get you that apartment. Have all that stuff in the apartment so that when you fly back after being with your family, all of your stuff will be here in your new apartment, nice and clean, categorized, ready for you to put where it needs to go. And then I always use the visual looking in this house, this burden, everything that's here's going on will be gone, be done. You don't have to worry about any of that. And that's how I presented my offer. Because once I said that, I got quiet and she said, "You can do that." And I said, "Absolutely, sign right here." And so I bought the house for $40,000. And she had a contract for $80,000. Now, question: it would have been a good deal at $60,000. So do you think I can, for $20,000, you think I can get her moved and a deposit and all that other stuff? Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the thing. We solve people's problems. That's our job. And I used to be this person. Like I told you at the beginning of the call, I was a, blue collar guy, wife and I making $9,000 a month, living on 10.5, 2 kids, 2 cars, the whole middle America or typical American life. So I was this guy too. So I'm attacking this person, but no, this person was me. But most people can't even figure out how to get the yard mowed, the groceries bought, dinner cooked, and their kids' homework done and in bed by 9 and get all that done by Friday. Most people struggle with that every week. How do I know? Because I did too. But most people struggle with that. So you add a death or a foreclosure or something like a move on top of all that. They're still worried about getting kids to school, getting people fed, getting the groceries bought, and getting the yard mowed, getting the truck serviced, right? All that daily, weekly stuff, most people cannot get. That's a big enough burden for them, plus working 10 hours a day. They can't figure out how to get that. So you start adding all these other things on. They can't figure out how to go down, get a deposit, get a mover, get all this stuff moved, because they're not going to pay for a mover. They're going to hire their friends or cousins to come with a truck and a trailer, and just scheduling all that. They can't figure that out. So if you can come in and deliver that solve that problem with your service, they'll sign for whatever price you want to sign for. I used to sign houses up with nothing on the contract. And the title company started getting mad at me. They're like, you got to start putting a number on here. And I was like, well, when we figure out what's owed on it, we were going to put the number on there. I had the seller agree, yeah, whatever's owed on it, that'll be fine. That's what I'll sell it for. So we signed everything and did everything. And then once we figured out the payoff, so the title company made me do an extra step there in the middle. So back to presenting the offer. When you present the offer, you present it to fix all that pain, like I just did with Mary. You present fixing the pain. You do not present, here's $40,000 for your house, right? So that's why in the first step or the third step, when you're getting all that pain, keep tally of it, right? And as you keep tally of it, and it's got to be emotional pain, right? It's not just that intellectual nonsense. It's got to be real pain. But we present the offer to fix all that. And when you do, they'll say yes, and they'll get it signed. Now, the seventh step is to called post sale or after the sale, wrapping it up, right? Because as house buyers, we have a lot of competition. And so what happens is, I tell you I'll give you 40 for the house, and somebody else is going to come give you 80 because you really wanted 80. But if I showed you the numbers, when I present my offer, I present it on the numbers. And so let me back up and say that for a minute. When I present my offer, I present the numbers wrapped around fixing the problem. Why? People make decisions. People buy or make decisions emotionally backed by logic. So you got to have an emotional push to get them to make the decision right now, right? You got to have the emotional pain, but it has to be backed by logic. I mean, if the numbers don't make sense, then they're not going to do it, right? There's no trickery involved there. You've got to have emotional transference backed by logic. So my numbers, my close is always presented fixing the problems, but I back it by the numbers on my paper. So as I do the post-sale wrap-up, what I say is, all right, Carlos, we bought, here it is. We've signed, we've done everything. I've got the contract in my pocket or in my folder, my pocket folder. And now I'm going to say this. Now, Carlos, what's going to happen when ABC company comes in here tomorrow and offers you $80,000 like you said you wanted when I got here? Or when they come offer you that, when they come offer you that $80,000, are we going to have a problem? Are we going to have a problem closing like we agreed upon right here that we signed? Because here's the thing, guys. If that's going to happen, I mean, out of role play for a minute, just if you're going to fight about it right there. Don't let. What happens is somebody will come in there tomorrow, so you got to make sure that they've accepted what's going to happen to them. They've accepted the $40,000. They've accepted that you and they have entered into a contract, and that when somebody comes in tomorrow and offers more money, we're not going to have a problem. You being a person of your word and me being a person of my word. We're going to close like we said we're going to close. And like I said, here's the numbers. When they offer 80, you show me where 80 doesn't work or where 80 works, right? In other words, that number they're going to give you doesn't work. That's why you've signed up with me, and that's why we've agreed. So you can end your sale that way, but the most important way to end it, I don't always do that, but I do always do this. I'll always explain what's going to happen. Paint the future. Because a lot of people think once they sign that paper that they're done. They need to understand that, hey, I'm going to have inspectors in here for the next couple of days. I'm going to have crews in here. This is, we might have to get more paperwork signed. There might be affidavits and HOA addendums and other paperwork we need to get signed that my transaction coordinator is going to be reaching out to you. But we're going to walk you through this process. Here's the first week. Here's the second week. And then we're going to go have our closing. And when we close and fund, then you'll get your money, or then you'll get whatever the outcome is based on your contract. But you just explain to them what's going to happen, because they feel like that once it's signed up, it's done. And it's far from it. It just started. Now, and because what happens is you sign a deal up, you get excited, you take that contract and you run out of the house and you get on Facebook, you get in your car and you take pictures of it. You're like, oh, I got a contract. And good for you. You did. But take care of the client. tell them what's going to happen. If you do that, after the sale, if you kind of wrap it up that way, you will have hardly any buyer's remorse, and people will stick to what they agreed to stick to. And then the last thing on that post sale is always ask for a referral. So I would say something like, Carlos, hey, did you really enjoy this process? And that, 9.9 out of 10 times they're like, hey, this was absolutely great. This is amazing. Wonderful. If you come across anybody in your family, friends in the future that would like to enjoy this process, I don't say sell their house. If I say, if they'd like to enjoy this process, could you send them my way? Absolutely. And they'll do it. So those are the 7 steps. I'll recap them real fast. It's step number 1 is to bonding and rapport. You got to have rapport. Step number 2 is to set the rules of the game, set the agenda of the meeting, whether it's the phone meeting, whether it's the home meeting. Number 3 is probe for pain. Find the pain, magnify it, make it hurt. Not just, oh yeah, I need to sell my house because I'm facing foreclosure. Really get in there and figure out, get an emotional thing for pain. Then it's budget, figure out the budget. Then it's figure out the decision process, decision maker. Once they do that, then you present the offer, and then you post sale, wrap up the offer so that they don't have the buyer's remorse. And that is the 7 steps.
A very thorough 7-step process. I was excited to see that you have the report or the asking for the referral built on the end, and then also eliminating the buyer's remorse, because this industry this niche of real estate that we're in, guys, it's so competitive due to a few variables. One of them being low barrier to entry. People can just go to one of those workshops and start sending out mails or door knocking, whatever. So it's good that you hit that. A very NLP. I was surprised and I liked it that it was a very NLP, even using like the visual, and you're pretty much just walking them through the entire process, painting a picture, trying to use all the different sensory images, stuff like that. And Tony Robbins would say that the quality of your life is due to the quality of your questions. I think you can apply that to your sales process as well as your negotiating with the seller.
Absolutely. That is right. Yeah. The quality of your questions is going to be your quality of your deal. The quality of your profit margin is going to be directly related to the quality of your questions, because when you ask really, really good questions, you're going to get clarity. One of the things I like to say is I'm very clarity driven. Coming from a person, I used to be, on a disc profile, I'm a high I. So I'm very grandiose and vague and I'm just with big words, right? And not specific. So to hear this from me is actually funny. This is how much I've evolved to clarity, right? So I used to give vague answers all the time. I coined this phrase, be vaguely specific. That's how I used to sell all the time. I'd just be vaguely specific about what was going to happen. But I probe for clarity from people from now on, and it works so much better. I hate it when people do it to me, but I end up liking it because that's truly what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. If you understand exactly what's going to happen and what to expect, and people will respect you. And what do I mean by clarity? Like, I mean, you'll ask a question and they'll say, hey, things look great. All things considered, Carlos, this was a great conversation. I think we have the numbers we want. Everything's on the up and up and looking good. So possibly next week, if everything looks right, we'll figure out what's going to happen from there. And that all sounds great, but it's all just a bunch of filibuster, man. It's just a bunch of words that sound good and make you feel good. And all that is just that person not wanting to commit to making a decision. So when people give me vagary, I simply ask, I match and mirror. I repeat it back to them, the last word or 2 words that they said. And then I'll say, what does that mean? Or I'll just repeat it back and phrase it tonality wise, like a question. So when somebody says, and I kind of learned this is a hybrid between Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, because he does phone negotiations. So I adopted a lot of what he does here. But the matching mirror he does is just in those last 3 words in the form of a question. But when you feed it back to them in the form of a question, it gets you the clarity. So when somebody, I'm trying to think of a question right now, but when somebody just says something like, yeah, it looks like, we'll do something, next Tuesday. And you go, next Tuesday? Like in the form of a question. Well, yeah, because Tuesday is the day that and they'll go deeper and get more clarity, right? So if you just ask it back to them, you'll start paying attention to the people's answers that they give you, and when it doesn't just feel right, when you don't just go, aha, I know exactly what you mean. Like, don't try to mind read. Don't assume what they're meaning. Seriously ask them, what does that mean? Because people will say, well, yeah, I make that decision in the mornings. In the morning, right? You just ask it back in a question and be quiet, and they'll naturally go, well, yeah, because that's my deal, and every time I do this, da 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 da, and they'll deep dive and they'll ask more. So always just ask, what does that mean? How'd you come up? That's interesting. How'd you come up with that? Right? Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more in that aspect, and they will. And when you start deep diving, you'll get real clarity on what's going to happen. So, Carlos, I call you next Tuesday at 3:00. What can I expect to happen? Like, it's real clear question, right? 3 p.m. You're going to get a call. What's going to happen? Yes, we're going to do this deal. No, we're not going to do it. Right? You could say we're going to wait till next Wednesday. But if we're going to do that, let's just schedule the call for next Wednesday then. Because I don't want to keep calling and calling and calling. I want a decision. And I'm okay with you telling me no. Right? People just also need the permission to say no. People are scared. Right? So that's why they blow you off. That's why they give you wishy-washy junk, because you don't give them permission to tell you no. I give them permission to tell me no. I want them to tell me no. Because no, in my ears are so trained. When you say no, it just means not now. No, I haven't heard enough. No, I'm not ready. No, what does that mean? It doesn't mean, no, I don't like you. No, I don't want to buy from you. It just means, no, I haven't heard enough.
Right.
So I go for the no. I like the no's. And I tell you what, I get them. I get a lot of them. I get a lot of yeses too, and so but I get none of the mystery, what's going to happen next deal, which I can tell you right now to the listeners on this feed, I know you're getting them. I know you are, because that was me too. Mm-hmm. Right. I hated it. It's absolutely so frustrating. I don't know what market you're in, but in Houston market, I mean, you're lucky to get 3 appointments in a day because of traffic, and you got to drive across town, and you get there and you spend 2 hours with this person, all this time with them to get some kind of vague answer, to leave, to get back in traffic, to go home. And you're like, I don't even know what happened. And I don't know what's going to happen next. And that's like the worst thing ever. It's so frustrating. So like, I'm just like, forget about it, man. Just get in there, get the right answer. What's going to happen? Pure clarity. And I'm okay with you telling me, no, get the hell out of here. Don't ever come back again. Great. At least I know not to come back, as opposed to, well, we'll think about it. My wife and I are going to talk about it. We appreciate you, Carlos, coming by. Da, da, da. That's all just making feel good fluff. Like, and I'll ask him, I like a negative person better than a positive person. I know that sounds weird, but when somebody's attaboy, patting me on the back and, oh, great job, that was wonderful, and you're just setting me up for the fall. That's all you're doing, right? You're just setting me up because you just want to tell me, not gonna. Now, if you tell me, I don't know, what about this, and like you're kind of skeptical, well, at least I know you're engaged and interested in your thinking, right? And so I like for the people to be, just tell me no, right? As opposed to building me all up of how, oh, that was great, that was good. I really loved how you did this, and I really loved how you did that. And you're just setting me up to tell me that, hey, you're either not going to buy my product or you're not going to sign my contract. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, you're getting clarity. And I think it may be John Martinez that says that your negotiation starts with the first no. So you're trying to get that. And that kind of parallels what you're saying. Like, the faster you can get to that no, that's when you can start your.
That's when it starts. Like, he's absolutely right. You have not started. You have not started any negotiation until somebody starts telling you no. Now, you get what's called a lay down close. You'll walk in, sometimes people just boom, they're ready and they'll sign. It's rare. It does happen, but he's absolutely right. Until you get that, as an emotional no too. Like, I like to get them emotional. When I get somebody fired up, not mad at me, but mad at the situation. When I get somebody fired up and emotional, now I know, now I got you. Now we're talking, right? Now we're going to make a decision. If I got you fired up about the situation and you're emotional, you'll make a decision. If you're not emotional about it, you get with people and they're like, meh, whatever. That's not, you're not going to make a decision. How many of y'all have done that? You ask your girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or wife, hey, what movie you want to see? Whatever. What about dinner? What do you want to do for dinner? Wherever you want to go. Doesn't matter. How long does it take you to arrive at the decision? Right? It's horrible. But if you said, hey, spouse, husband, wife, friend, let's go eat Chinese food. Well, no, I don't like Chinese food. Now we're getting somewhere, right? Now I've got you to tell me no. Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, what food do you like? You know, I like hamburgers. Okay. Well, I know 2 places, A or B. Which one of those do you like better? Right? Like it's so getting to the no just creates the conversation. So you got to get to it.
Right. And you're it sounds to me from like a general overview, it's like you're walking them through logically the whole process and how it makes sense for them, how it's going to solve their problem. But then you're also stacking up those emotional deposits kind of in your back pocket to kind of like pick and prod on while you're doing that. And that's what it is, man. Humans, I say this all the time. I'm a Tony Robbins guy. I haven't seen him in person yet, but like humans are just such emotional and feeling beings. People don't take that into account enough when negotiating, sales, just personal relationships, business relationships. You have to be able to focus and learn how to read that. But that's arguably one of the most vital skills to have in success in life and everything like that. I've come to find out here in my 28 years of life.
Yes, I will say Tony Robbins is what I've cut my teeth on, if you will. I mean, he just to echo what he says is just study people, study psychology. You know, I got an NLP psychology, studying people, and what Tony teaches you to do, and it's part of his process, right? That he puts you through. And it's a sales process, but it's also a change your life process. But what he gets you to do is study yourself, and he gets you to change yourself because you're with yourself 24/7. So you can work on yourself. If you had a patient or a subject, you wouldn't be with them enough. But you're with yourself all the time. So he's like, work on yourself, understand yourself, understand. And that's what I did. I dove into Tony Robbins, read all his stuff, listened to all his audios, and went through all his processes. And if you study yourself and figure out why did Colby make that decision, right? Why did I make that decision? How did I make that decision? What influenced me to make that decision? And really start analyzing yourself and why you make decisions. And once you become kind of a study of who you are, then it's real easy when you start looking at that other person and working with that other person to understand why they're making decisions. And then, like I said, after you've seen so many people, there's like 4 types of people in the world, and that's it. And once you see, and Tony teaches patterns and NLP teaches patterns, you start seeing patterns. And so pretty much after I figured out who I'm talking to, and I figured that out by language patterns and what they say, I pretty much know that if I say this, you'll say that. If I ask you this, you'll say. If I ask you this, you answer it this way. I know where we're going because I've talked to so many people that I know where that's headed. I know where you're thinking. I know why. Because we are unique beings and we're all our own person. However, we're not that unique. Mm-hmm. We're really kind of chunked up in Tony's words into bigger categories.
Yeah, that's at least in 4 different personality categories, and I'm sure that the amount of logic versus emotional prodding you do to those 4 different personality types are a little different.
It is. I mean, absolutely. It kind of fits in the DISC profile as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's those 4 types, right? And you're all 4, but you got a primary, right, and a secondary. And so you find people that are D's or driven, or sharks. You can put animal names on them too, right? D are driven or sharks. They're speed. They want bullet points. They want, they speak in this language too. They speak in bullet points. They speak in bottom line. Give me the baby. Give me the results, right? They want fast. They want cash. They want money. A lot of, they're good leaders. And then the I's are the social butterflies. Never meet a stranger. They talk big, grandiose terms. They want people to like them. They like everybody. We call those dolphins. They want to have fun, right? They want to have friends, have fun. That's me. I'm a high ID.
Same.
Right. And then they have S's, which are security, safe, right? Mama bears, they take care of people. They stabilize things. They make things better. They want to help people. They want to help others. They talk a little more kinesthetic. They're a little more feeling oriented. And they are, we call those whales, right? Just whales. And then urchins are the C's, which are analytical, spreadsheet people. Everything has to be studied. What are all the safety factors? And give me all the decimal point spaces and, so those 4 types as you start talking, you listen to their language patterns and how they're talking to you, and you'll say, "Oh, that's an analytical, a high C, or an analytical, CS person, and this is a high I, high D." And so I know if I sit down with a D personality type, and I start talking in stories, and I start talking in detailed minutia numbers, they're going to lose them. They're going to not like me, and I'll be so out of rapport. But I know how to work with those people, right? I know how to say, here's the 3 things you need to know. Now, once I get to the bottom line, before I get to the bottom line, you've got to be on the same page with me. We've got to understand this right here. Do you mind if we go through these things real quick so we can get to the bottom line? And they're like, yes, because why? They want the bottom line. They'll endure some stories and they'll endure some numbers, but you just got to frame it right. You can't just step in there with spreadsheets. They're going to be like, get out of my office, right? And then the high eyes, they're the fun, and they like you, and they want to be liked. They really want to be liked. So you just have to be, how you approach them is fun, and this will be fun, and this will be interesting and upbeat, and have a good time. Don't be downer, right? And then the safety minded people, they want to help people. They want to bring security and stability. So you'll listen to the language patterns. They talk that way too, right? So you tell them how secure this, use the words. Words are powerful. They're only 7%, but they're extremely powerful when placed appropriately, right? Words like use security and safety. And how does that make you feel? This secure move, or this safe way to do this, they really love those words and the terminology. And then the analytical people, man, you just got to get into the numbers and spreadsheets and be accurate. That's the scary part about numbers, people. If you're going to get into the numbers, so it's tough. I'm an ID and I don't like the details, so it's hard for me to get real detailed. I have to be really prepared if I sit down with one of those engineers, because they're going to ask me the do calculus, and I don't know how. So, so it's, you got to be kind of careful with that. But once you understand those people, it's great. And I have backup. I have people on my team. If I need to, set them with somebody, I will. But just know your personality types, know your deal. And the biggest thing is just stick to the process. Man, when you do one process and you do it well, here's a question for you. Is everything going to fit in your process? No, it's not going to fit in your process, but that's okay. Are you going to miss some deals? Maybe, right? You're going to get some good ones too. But here's the most important thing about building out a process. When you have one way and one process, you can track what goes in there. And if you track what goes in there, you can adjust and make it better. If you don't have a process and you're just kind of hit and miss and going all over the place, you're not going to get traction. You're not going to be able to understand what's going on. And you're not going to be able to scale, right? And some of y'all might say, well, I know there's all types of people watching this, and you're like, well, I just want to flip 2 or 3 houses a year. And that's fine. You still need some processes, but you don't have to worry about big systems and all this stuff. You still need to have a little system though, a little process to move things through. Who's responsible for what? Right? Who's doing the project? Who's doing the listing? Who's doing this? And have it written out and have a process, even to just do 2 or 3. But life will be easier, because if you're just doing 2 or 3, it probably means you have a job and you're working full time. You're going to need a process to be able to work around your time. Now, if you're doing this full time and you're going to work at it, I'm sure right now, if you're doing this full time, you're wearing 9 hats, and it sucks and it's hard. I've been there, and you've got to really build out a very refined system and be just bulletproof with, this is my process. And if it doesn't fit in my process, it does not go in my assembly line. If you go to a Ford assembly line, a Toyota doesn't fit, right? Well, the machine that puts the doors on, it's the same for every automobile. Yeah, but a Ford door goes in that, not a Toyota door. So whatever your assembly line is, that's your assembly line and that's your process. And if you do it now and set it up that way, then you'll be able to scale it. If you do want something big, you have to have it, because you're never going to scale if you're doing more than really one thing. I mean, you can do 2 things, 1.5 things in your business, but the best thing is just to have one thing and one thing done well. In the car industry, whoever's putting in windshields, that's what they do. They don't do tires. They don't do the wheels. They just do the windshields, right? So whatever your process is in wholesaling or in any house business, it's who's doing the marketing, who's doing the acquisition, right? Who's doing financing, who's doing project management, and who's doing disposition. And that's really it. And, can the marketing person be doing the financing? Sure, they can in a small enough business. I mean, we're not talking about a huge corporation, but so you can, 2 or 3 people can share those roles. But should the disposition person be doing what acquisition is doing? No, it needs to be a completely different person for a lot of reasons. It needs to be a completely different person because it's 2 different jobs, 2 different styles. It also for protection of your business, because this is a low entry barrier, and what'll happen is you'll just train people to go leave and do their own thing if they understand all the components, right? So, and if they want to, that's fine. I worked with a guy, a really good friend of mine, Jason Evers, out of Florida. He solved that with a window washing company, pressure washing company. So I talked to him. A lot of wholesalers were like, man, as I build my company out, I hire a guy does acquisition disposition for me, and then he leaves and does his own thing. It's pretty common because he had the pressure washing business. He told me this is how he fixed it. He said, man, look, pressure washing business, you pay a guy $12 an hour, and you go bid a job for $1,800. And after a while, he's washing that parking lot. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm $12 an hour. I can go rent this machine back here for $500, and I can charge the guy $1,800. Why am I only getting $12 an hour? And he goes and rents a machine. He does it. Now you've built your competition. So what Jason said to do was, or how he fixed his business, he goes, if you bring somebody on, tell you, hey, you're going to sign an 18-month contract with me or a 24-month contract with me. Because I know, Carlos, when we get done with this, you're going to want to do this too. And I want you to do it. And I'm going to teach you and train you how to do it. All of it, the entire business. But I need a 18-month, you work for me, you're not competing with me, you're going to learn all this. And when I'm done in 18 months, we're going to sit down and recap on how well you're doing. And if you're ready, I'm going to help you get an LLC. I'm going to help you build the business. I'm going to help you get started and launch your own deal. And I'm keeping 10% of that company. And so then if you're training competition, train them well. Because when you put them out in the world, you're going to get a piece of that business.
NLP, walking them through a future vision too.
Walk through future vision, right? Future pace. Yeah, future pace them on what's going to happen, man. So.
Awesome, man. As far as scaling the sales team, I want to get that site up here again. Like I said, I'll put it in the show note. Was it 7stepsaleprocess.com?
Sales with an S. You're close. I know it's a horrible domain, but 7-step sales process. It's also, there's a link to it at colbyamerine.com. You can put that in there too.
Awesome. I surely will.
Yeah. So for anybody that does want to, I do a 30-minute consulting call just to kind of see where you're at. I do sell programs. So that 7-step process is free. I do have right now it's bi-weekly. I may get it to weekly, but I do a bi-weekly coaching call, group call. So I'm like this. I'm not going to teach you. Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, John Martinez, all these guys have put millions into building out all this awesome books and training and tapes. Okay, go watch them. Go listen. I'm not going to make a training tape. I've made that webinar. I've made that PDF. What I am going to do, because what I know that works, is coach you through real time 3 leads you're working on this week. So twice a month on Wednesdays, I have a call. It's a Zoom call, kind of like what we're on now, where I say, Carlos, give me the last 3 leads you're working on, the biggest ones you want to close. What's the bottleneck? Where you hung up? And he's going to say, I'm hung up in this. And then we're going to fix it. And I'm going to say, get on the phone, call him right now, tell him this, and we're going to close deals. And it's your deals. That's it. I don't need a piece of it. I'm just totally coaching, helping people get through closing their deals. If you want to read materials or books, I can give you every one I've ever read, right? And I'll tell you to go read. I'm not going to rewrite people's books. I think that's ridiculous. But I am going to keep you. What happens is you can read all the books you want, but you get hung up. You sit down with the seller. They said this, you said that, and I'm stuck, and now I don't know what to do, and you have nobody to talk to. That unless you want to pay them $25,000 to be a coach or whatever. And then that ends, right? So I have a monthly subscription call where you come in on that call. You can do $6,000 for life, or you can do $197 a month, right? So either way for you.
Good pricing structure there for the monthly.
Yeah. So it's just like, yeah. So you get in there and you do that monthly deal. I figure this for $200, we're going to have 4 hours together. You're going to bring deals. It's not a training call. It's I'm stuck on this deal where I can make $20,000 and I'm going to help you close the deal. Right. I'm going to walk you through what to say, how to say it. At our first, a girl had her first call on our group last Wednesday, and 3 days later, I have a little private Facebook group I put us in, secret Facebook group, posted in there. I did the closer's way, and the closer and the person walked their way to the close. She was so excited. So she got a deal using my process. Because one of the things I teach is I don't close people. I let them close themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I ask questions until they walk into the close.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, Carlos, if we do this and I do this and this happens, what do you see happening next? That's how I end everything. Like, what do you see happening next? And you'll get, well, I do the deal. Okay, well, let's do it. Right. So I get them to not, hey, will you sign this? I walk them into the close. So that's fun. So that group is pretty fun, but we can get more into that. I mean,
invite me in there too, because I could probably, I got a ton of clients, so I could definitely send some people your way. But that's an overarching theme I've seen, just walking people through the process of the process.
So that's called the Closers Room, which is pretty fun. I have 2 domains. I have Closers Room. That's where you go buy the tickets to it, but I'll get you in that Facebook group too. It's just the Closers Room. We do all the fun stuff. I put stuff in there, not every day, but like, coffee is for closers and just inspirational quotes. I see a funny video with a good little deal, I'll put it in there. But most of it's to celebrate wins. And, if somebody has an immediate problem, I'm like, put it in there and tag me, because if I help you, right, then if everybody gets to watch, then everybody wins. That's the whole point of that group coaching. It just helped Lori in there 2 days ago. She put something in there about renegotiating with a seller. So I just put, I put in there the answer that fit. And if it's something I need to get on the phone with, then I would even take my time out to just get on the phone with you to make sure it's right. But most of the time if you type a good question, I can type a good answer. But the beauty of it is the other people in the group get to see the answer, and they don't even know they have that same problem, or they're going to hit that same problem at some point, and now they've already got the answer. So it's like a little history log of data for you to have. Yeah. So that's a lot of fun.
That's cool, man. And just helping getting close to that 500,000 mark. I love the vision of wanting to help 500,000 people. Something very specific number, but attainable for sure. Absolutely. So I appreciate that. Appreciate your time coming on here, man. I know a lot of people are going to enjoy this. I'm going to make sure to get all the resources on the page here so they can check it out. 7stepsalesprocess.com, ColbyAmerine.com.
ColbyAmerine.com. And then I'll put if they want to do the Closers Room, I'll talk to them. They can schedule a call and get a hold of me there. We don't have to broadcast the Closers Room. If somebody really wants it, they'll take a step. So if you're listening and you want that, take the step. Go there, schedule the call, we'll get on the phone. Because the beautiful thing about being a private coach or an entrepreneur, the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur, hey, Carlos, we get to work with who we want to work with. Yep. So I do a little interview process because we got to make sure that we're going to have fun, right? Because I am a high I, remember? I just want to have fun.
Same here, man. Same here.
And I want people to like me. So we want to make sure everything fits. But we have a lot of fun. And I just want to thank you for everything, man. I don't know if we're getting close to. Are we getting close to wrapping up? Or
I was thinking to wrap up here soon. But yeah, man, my pleasure. And I know, like a couple times throughout the duration here of the broadcast, I was thinking, man, sent out a lot of slide broadcast messages for Colby. I've seen a lot of his appointments scheduled across town, figuring those out. So it's been awesome to see you have a lot of success here with your business and being able to train other people.
Well, that's what I wanted to say too. I didn't know how much time we had left, so I was going to say that I love InvestorFuse, and I think you guys are great. And I remember when y'all came out or created. I had for 8 months been trying to figure out Podio, and I kept saying, man, it just needs to do this, this, and this. It just needs to do this, this, and this. And then after you came out, I'm like, wow, this does this, doesn't it? It does exactly what I needed it to do. And it's been an absolute pleasure. It is definitely talk about automating your business and helping freeing up. And, hey, nothing's perfect, right? I'm not perfect. InvestorFuse is not perfect. But, man, to get the automation that you need done, when you start automating, it's not you specifically talking. I know you can go in there and rewrite all the messages, but what it does is it allows you to pump so many numbers through that you can actually start calculating and seeing results, right? So it's like, it's probably not for the person that wants to flip 4 houses a year, right?
Definitely.
But it is for the person that wants to market every month or have a handful of leads. And what I love about it now, and as my business has evolved, I love to have so many leads now that I don't even have to do, like, you see my old marketing, I was pounding out, tens of $20,000 in a month in marketing. But now that I have all these leads, I can just do this slide broadcast, and it so regenerates and it brings life back. I've got those 4 appointments this week, right? It's like, I don't need a lot. I don't have 8 people working for me anymore. I know out of 4 leads, I'll get one, probably 2, right? Because of the way we qualify.
That's a whole nother talking point, or good point to bring up, is that when you put that importance on sales negotiating, you can spend less money on marketing, in theory.
Oh, I tell people that all the time. So one of my little taglines, about 2 to 3 times a year, I'll do a class, and I call it Coffee is for Closers. And it's a 1-day class. Someday I may make it 2 days, and it's a pitch into my program for sure, but it's a full-blown live training, and I love it. And I invite the current students to come into it as well as new people, but it's where we go through those 7 steps, and we actually role play, and we have a lot of fun. And it's a jam-packed day, but at that class, it's just a blast. I forgot where I was going with that. We were talking about, right before that, you were saying what, Carlos?
That the better you are at sales negotiating, less you could spend on marketing.
So that's where I was headed with that. So when I do that class, one of my marketing Facebook posts or whatever says this, and I know this is you out there right now, and I say this: you've spent thousands of dollars on education or programs, you spent thousands of dollars on marketing, you spent thousands of hours in time, all that to finally get to the house to get into the appointment, and you blow it. And if you blow it, you got to go do all that again, right? That $3,000, $5,000 in marketing spend gets you into the one house. And if you blow it, you got to spend another $5,000 to get into another one. And that's what people don't understand. And the ones that you do understand it are shaking your head. I know you are, because it hurts, right? So the most important skill in this business is the sales skill, closing the deal. I think that, and it's marketing and sales, period. Marketing and sales. If you can't market, then, if I can't get into a deal, then I'm no good, right? So if you can't market, that's no good. If you can do sales, if you can do marketing but no sales, if I can get all the leads in the world but can't close them, that doesn't do you any good. So it's a very balanced combination of marketing and sales. In my world, because I'm a good marketer and I'm a great salesperson, so I like the sales process part better. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a 7 or 8 in marketing and a 9 and 10 in sales, right? And so, but sales are so critical. You spend all that money and all that time. And if I know out of 4 appointments, I'll get 1, then I just need 4 appointments. And if lead costs are $200 a lead, then I know what I need to spend. $800 buys me a house, right? Depending on what market in, knowing what your lead costs are. But that's one of the things InvestorFuse helps with so much. Now, you have to put the data in, but put it in. That was a learning curve for me, and I got a little lazy at the beginning of the year because I started doing the slide broadcast thing, which was working really, really well. But if you put your campaigns in and put your dollar amount, it'll track what your lead cost is. And when you know what your lead cost is, you can how many appointments it's taking you to close the deal. That's the numbers and boxes you need to be doing. Mm-hmm. How much money or time am I spending, right? Investor doesn't track your time. You need to track your time, but how much money am I spending? And out of that, how many calls am I getting? Out of those calls, how many of those are real leads that turn into appointments? And how many of those appointments turn into contracts? And how many of those contracts close? Once you know that little system, it doesn't matter if you're putting 10,000 in the front or 1,000 in the front. Once you're tracking that, you can win. But until you're tracking that, you're running blind. It's like driving with a blindfold on or being out in the ocean with no directional tool, right? You're just floating around. But when you track your numbers, a lot of people, what's sad is they go spend a fortune on education and then they don't do it. I mean, coming from that education space, I see a lot of people buy education, and so I run a little local meetup here at the Woodlands, and when people come into it, I mean, one of the things I do is a little slide about here's where most people go. They spend this or spend that. And if you're part of my networking club or my group, I'll tell you if you need to buy that education or not, and I'll ask you a few questions about where you're at. I'm a proponent of education. I've sold millions of dollars of it. I believe in it, but I just understand that people are at different places in their life too.
Mm-hmm.
I wish somebody would have showed me when I first started, hey, man, you should probably study this, this, and this first. Watch this YouTube channel, listen to these podcasts, then go spend $50,000 on a coach and a program. Right? I wish somebody would have kind of told me that in the beginning. It would have helped me start off a lot less in the hole than I was. But some people are ready. Some people are like, nope, you need to go buy this guy's or this gal's program. You need to get them one-on-one, get the full price. Because where you are in life and what you can do, you'll be there by the end of the year with this guy. And I've seen it happen. I've sold for work and built out several different education people, and I've watched people come in their group and crush it in 6 weeks. I've watched them crush it in under 6 months. And I mean crush it, I mean like 6-figure months, like within 6 months. But they had a lot of stuff in place already, or they had some money in their pocket and they were able to do some finance, some marketing. And everybody's in a different spot, right? So it's good. I'd like to get to know everybody out there listening. So, I mean, like I said, you follow me on Facebook, go to my website, schedule a call on there. It goes to Calendly and books a call. I'd love to get on the phone with you for 30 minutes for free, just to figure out where you're at, how I can help you, how I can bring some value.
Yeah, man. Can't ask for a better value add than that.
Thanks.
Cool, man. Well, a ton of stuff to unpack here. I'm sure people will be going back, rewatching this, sharing this to their acquisitions team. And Colby, I hope I'm getting the quote right here. Live to sell, don't sell to live. I love that.
Yes, it's a good one. Live to sell, don't sell to live.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your valuable time. I'm going to let you go here. And definitely invite me into that Facebook group. I'm sure I got a bunch of InvestorFuse members that could benefit either directly themselves, someone on their team for sure. And any closing words?
Oh, I just want to appreciate everybody coming out. Appreciate you, Carlos. Appreciate InvestorFuse, Dan, everybody, all your full team out there. Just all you guys are fantastic.
Appreciate that, man.
I would say out of every company I've ever dealt with, I've dealt with a lot of software people, and customer service is one of y'all's number one things. You know, operational excellence for sure, because your systems work, but you know, customer service is so hard to find in your niche, you know, in the arena that y'all are in. So that's a lot of fun. It's fun working with you guys. Thank you for including me in this. For you out there listening to this, I know I said a while ago, hey, reach out to me, colbyameron.com. You can schedule a call. We can get on there. Follow me on Facebook. Message me. Come to any of my classes, any of my events. I'm all over the nation, so friend me on Facebook. I do stuff Jersey, LA. Love to do some stuff up by you guys, Florida, Houston. So I'm always around. So if you're on my Facebook, you'll know. Just encourage you to friend me there. I'd love to meet you. Check you out. See how I can help you close more deals. Thanks a lot, Carlos.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Colby. And definitely take Colby up on that, guys.
All right. Thanks, man.